Good evening, councillors, and welcome to the ordinary council meeting of Wednesday the 1st of February 2023 and our first meeting for the year. I'd like to open the meeting with the opening of the meeting prayer. Almighty God be with us as we work for the people of the Shire of Moorabool. Grant us wisdom that we may care for the Shire as true stewards of your creation. May we be aware of the great responsibilities placed upon us. Help us to be just in all our dealings, and may our work prosper for the good of all. Amen. Also like to read the acknowledgement of country. I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of other communities who may be here today. Councillors, in accordance with the Moorabool Shire Council's meeting procedures local law, the council will be recording this meeting, and I welcome any members of the media who may be with us or watching online. All councillors are present, so there'll be no apologies. And just the next item is the confirmation of minutes from the ordinary council meeting on Wednesday the 7th of December and the special council meeting on Wednesday the 21st of December. Anyone like to move that? Councillor Minari. Seconded Councillor Berry and Sullivan. All in favour? Carried. Councillors, I will ask if there is any conflicts of interest. None declared? Okay, item 8 is public question time, and we have one question which has been registered, and I understand Mr Bezuidenhout will read out the question and council's response.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The question from Mr Dasko Barak. What is council service commitment and or statutory requirement or days obligation in processing, deciding a planning permit application, exemption for notice of review and the clause 5210-1 of the planning provisions, i.e. planning permit exemptions for building reconstruction after an emergency, e.g. bushfire, flood, windstorm, etc. In response, Council has a statutory requirement to decide upon planning permit applications within 60 days, after which time an applicant can lodge an appeal with VCAT for failure to determine in a timely manner. However, the time requirement is not a straight 60 days from the date an application is received by Council. There are certain application requirements and triggers that start, stop and reset a clock. Some of these triggers are incomplete application lodged, further information being received, advertising requirements being met where required, referral responses, applicant objector consultations, etc. It is relevant to note that the above standard process applies unless the state government introduces exemptions from the planning scheme requirements to cater for weather or extreme events. Council previously adopted a fast-track process in consultation with internal departments and external departments, such as the CFA, to allow for the rebuild of dwellings as a result of the Scotsman's fires in 2015. The fast-track process saw planning applications being assessed within 70 to 45 days. Where the applicant has demonstrated unique circumstances and the planning scheme does not allow for exemptions, council officers continue to attempt to deal with these applications in a quicker turnaround time based on the merit of each circumstance. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bezuidenhout. The next item is petitions. Now, councillors, we do have one petition, Moorabool residents for rubbish pickup services. There is a recommendation that council notes that petition. Any councillors like to move that? Councillor Edwards?
Mr Mayor.
Second, Councillor Minari. All in favour? Carried. Councillors, there is no presentations or deputations, so we'll move on to item 11. Item 11.1 is the governance rules update. Councillors, we have a recommendation that council adopts the minor change in the governance rules relating to the election of the mayor and deputy mayor.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Dudzik. Seconded by Councillor Berry. All in favour? Carried. Item 11.2 is council allowances. Again, we have a recommendation that council move the amendment to the council allowances.
So moved, Mr Mayor.
Moved Councillor Edwards. Any councillor second that recommendation? Councillor Sullivan. All in favour? Carried. Councillor Tatchell.
With respect, Mr Mayor,
there was no ability to object to it. So I'd just like that noted.
Thank you. My apologies, Councillor Tatchell. Item 11.3, grant agreement regional airports program, which is the Bacchus Marsh Aerodrome drainage repair and upgrade, and it's a variation agreement. Again, councillors, there is a recommendation to include it in the minutes. Anyone like to speak on that item or move the item?
I have a question, please, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Sullivan?
Is this retrospective payment for what we've already done, or is this payment for what has to be done? And if so, who's going to do the work?
Through the chair, these works are actually underway at the moment, and what it is it's an external contractor doing it, and this is a variation. What is unique about this is the federal government have asked for the seal to be put on the approval, so that's the reason. But ultimately, these works are already underway.
Okay, thank you.
I'll move the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Edwards. Seconded by Councillor Dudzik. All in favour? Carried. Move on to item 12, and item 12.1 is an amendment to C101, Browns Lane adoption, and we have a speaker, councillors, to that item, and I'd like to introduce Mr Matt Woods to speak. Matt, feel free to take the chair and press the button, please.
Thanks, Rod, and thanks, Council, for the opportunity to speak to you. So I'm Matt Woods, 75 Browns Lane, Parwin. I'm the owner of the property that's looking to get amended. I'm very much supportive of it because it's a rare thing where you have a heritage overlay on the wrong building, and I'm sure we'd all love to know how that occurred. But it turns out that the next door neighbour's property was built in the 1800s, the 1860s, and it was probably the first house in Parwin. Our property is a weatherboard, and it was built in the 1920s and probably moved to the site in the 1940s, sometime post-Second World War. So how somebody got that so wrong, I don't know. It's an interesting question. Not just as a landowner who would like to not have any encumbrances on their property, it's also, I think, great to have the historical record corrected and the correct property ensured that it's not bulldozed with a lot of the other buildings that possibly will be with the Parwin precinct. So it's, if you probably haven't seen the building, it's a lovely old building and it's got some terrific outbuildings. So really that's it. I support it. I thank Council for the opportunity, and also I'd like to special mention of Sarah. Sarah Kernahan has made the process what can be quite a long process and difficult. She's made it quite easy in terms of great communication. And she was, when I pointed out that I thought there was an error there, she was very quick to pop up with a heritage architect. So I really appreciate that. Sarah, thank you. Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Matt. So, councillors, we have this recommendation. Any questions, councillors? Okay. Moved by Councillor Tatchell, seconded by Councillor Edwards. All in favour? Carried. Item 12.2, councillors, is the Bacchus Marsh Aerodrome Master Plan. The purpose of this report is to provide council with an overview of the process undertaken to develop and engage on the master plan of the Bacchus Marsh Aerodrome, and to recommend that council receive the final Bacchus Marsh Aerodrome Master Plan. So again, councillors, we have a recommendation there. Any questions, councillors? No?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Dudzik.
Seconded, Mr Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Edwards. All in favour? Carried. Councillors, item 13, community strengthening reports, and item 13.1 is the minutes for the Mirrabul Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee meeting on the 8th of August, and for the Mirrabul Health and Wellbeing Advisory Committee also that was held on the 5th of December 2022. Council, we have a recommendation that the minutes of those two meetings be received. Any questions, councillors?
I move, Mr Mayor.
Moved Councillor Edwards. Seconded Councillor Sullivan. All in favour? Carried. Councillors, item 13.2 is the Community Asset Committee reports. And we have minutes that have been presented for the Blacksmiths Cottage and Forge Community Asset Committee meeting on the 24th of May, the 23rd of August, the Lau Lau Soldiers Memorial Hall Committee meeting on the 16th of August 2022, the Gordon Public Hall Community Asset Committee on the 8th of June, and the Bacchus Marsh Public Hall Community Asset Committee meeting on the 26th of September. Any questions, councillors?
I'll move with a question if I may, and I'm happy to take it on notice. So in those minutes it identified a potential for a strip of land to be donated, if you like, or as open space contribution with potential development. Have we heard anything from the developer on that land and what they propose to use? It's particularly because it's right on the building structure, and there was concerns that because it doesn't have a base that it could fall down.
Just for clarity, Councillor Edwards, which minutes or
That was
which?
the Blacksmiths Cottage one.
Blacksmiths Cottage, thank you.
Through Chair, I'll have to take that one on
Yeah, I'm happy
notice.
to take
I'll
it
get
on
the
notice,
question.
Mr CEO.
Thank you.
No further questions, councillors? Would someone like to move the...
I moved that.
Sorry, you did? Yes, moved by Councillor Edwards. Seconded Councillor Minari. All in favour? Carried. Item 13.3, the Bland Library and Community Hub Concept Plan. Councillors, the purpose of this report is to present and seek approval from Council for the Bland Library and Community Hub Concept Plan, and we have a recommendation that Council approves the concept plan. Any questions?
I have a question. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tatchell.
Councillor Tatchell first.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. This question's probably not related to the actual item, but we've put some paint down where the services are for that building on the slate and on the footpaths down there. I just want to know if it's solvable, because that's a very expensive bit of footpath we put down, and if we painted all over it to show where the services are, I'm sure a bit of common sense would have said put it off the street or off the footpath, or especially when you're talking about fairly expensive bluestone, porous slate. But anyhow, to pull it all up would be very expensive. So my question is it solvable? Can it be removed? Or are we up for a bill to try and fix it? If we get a good answer to that, well, obviously I'm quite happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr Mayor.
Mr Jeffries.
Through you, Mr Mayor, just in response, I don't know what paint was used. I'd have to follow that up and provide some advice later on.
Thank you. Councillor Sullivan, you also had a question?
Yeah, I had a question, Mr Mayor, just to ask whether the comments made by councillors and have been incorporated into the document that will go on exhibition.
Through the
CEO?
Chair, yes, all comments will be incorporated into the final
design?
into the design and into the final
So
document.
so they'll go in with the mix of responses from the community.
Exactly,
So it's just-
and then be brought back to
Okay,
council
thank you.
as part of that process.
I'll move the recommendation if there's also.
Councillor Minari, you also had a question?
Yeah, sorry, I'm just going to add to Councillor Sullivan's question, if I could. Will that include the photos that we discussed about the second-hand brick?
That's correct. The render
Yes?
the render will form part of what we're putting out for the
Lovely,
consultation.
thank you.
Okay, so we have the councillors. We have the motion moved by Councillor Tatchell. Just calling for a seconder. Councillor Minari. All in favour? Carried.
If I may, when might we expect that to come back to council? What's the ETA?
CEO, Mr CEO.
Through the Chair, I'd have to check with the General Manager, Lee, as to when the exact date would be.
Well, not exactly, but we look at months, 6 months?
I'll need to take that one on notice, but the schematic design is the next part of the design process, where the next level of detail will be available to councillors, but the exact date I'll need to come back.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, councillors. The next item of business is the customer care and advocacy reports. Now, councillors, we have a number of minutes there. The Audit and Risk Committee summary of minutes from the 10th of November, the 10th of November 2021, the 16th of February 22, 11th of May 22, 10th of August 22, the special meeting on the 31st of August 2022, and finally the August and Risk Committee summary of minutes from the 9th of November 2022. Councillors, any questions on that? Councillor Berry?
Now, I just have a question. So all of those meetings haven't gone through the ordinary council meeting before, prior to this? I feel like we're...
Through the chair, I'd have to check with Caroline, but I assume that's what this is. It's catching up on actually bringing the minutes to the council OMC. Going forward, council agendas, there will be a slight change in the audit committee, and those documents will all be getting issued to councillors, all councillors beforehand as well.
Thank you.
So moved.
Moved Councillor Dudzik, seconded Councillor Minari. All in favour? Carried. Councillors, item 14.2 is consideration of intent to seek a rate cap variation for financial year 23-24. And again, councillors, the purpose of this report is for council to resolve the matter of whether it seeks to apply for a rate cap variation for the 23-24 budgeting and planning cycle. We have a recommendation, councillors, that we do not apply for a rate cap variation. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Edwards?
So considering that the rate cap this year is below inflation, will that mean that we'll have to cut some services over the coming 12 months?
Through the chair. No, because our financial modelling, we hadn't factored in the kind of 7.5% CPI that it seems to be running at the moment. We'd always anticipated that the cap would be at a lower level. So the model is based on assumptions which are roughly in or around where this cap has come in. So based on the current service levels provisions, I would like to highlight that we are commencing an enterprise bargaining agreement this year, and of course that will have an outcome on future years going forward.
I'll move the recommendation there, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tatchell?
If I may, Mr Mayor, just following on from what Councillor Edwards has asked, ultimately, and I understand Councillor Edwards' point that we're at half the inflationary rate of the present day, but also the way the Fair Go rating system is structured, that councils are actually at a loss in terms of the following year, because if you take the Fair Go rating system as it sits, that ultimately it's based on the year before when they give you the next rating structure or the rating increase. So ultimately, whenever they draw a conclusion to halve what the CPI is in its current form, or as it sits today, in this case it's probably less than half, it's probably more like 40% in real terms. And we also have to take into consideration that the state government allows 1% for infrastructure works over and above that, which takes it back well below 30% in terms. So do we need to do some modelling over the next 10 years? Because one thing we have noticed since the Fair Go rating system has come into place, that what you do yesterday will have a dramatic effect in a compounding way over a 10-year period, and we've seen that modelling over time. So I suppose my question is, have we done modelling that would reflect that, with an understanding of what detriment that would have to Shire's finances over probably the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th year, based on the fact that their modelling, or the way that the state government manages this, or the way that they've set it out in the legislation, it puts you at a deficit day one if you go below CPI. So I think, I don't know whether we're doing that, but I take on board what the CEO said and I accept that. But over a long period of time, that may not be the case because it compounds. So that's my point, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell.
I'll second it.
Thank you. I'll just...
through the chair, we do quite a lot of modelling, and we tend to go out 10 to 15 years, and Councillor Tatchell is exactly correct. You can deal with these issues for 1 or 2 years, but it's actually the compounding issue that actually really comes home to roost. So we do a lot of sensitivity analysis and testing, and we will hopefully be taking the councillors through that as part of this year's budget process, because one of the big factors is interest rate rises and what they're doing to future modelling going forward as well. So that is something that we do a number of different scenarios on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr CEO. So, councillors, what this does highlight before we move to moving and seconding, which we have, it does highlight that the local government is going to be under pressure right around the state with the fair go rate cap for 23-24 set at 3.5%, with inflation currently running at 7.3%. So we have a mover for that recommendation, Councillor Edwards, a seconder for that recommendation, Councillor Dudzik. All in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 15, other reports. Councillors, there is nil. Item 16, notice of motion. Councillors, in our packs, we were advised of a notice of motion regarding the Werribee River, which will be presented by Councillor Berry.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, you have in front of you the motion explains that it is just an investigation into large amounts of sediment that are running into the Werribee River. I have viewed the sediment that is running into the river, and it's quite large. There are barriers up that are supposed to prevent this sediment running down into the river. Residents have reported it. What I viewed with Councillor Dudzik was quite excessive. There was like an island appearing in the Werribee River. It's actually covering the food that the wildlife in the river feed on, particularly the platypus. Also a sensor was built into the river to report all this sediment that's happening, and you will see you've got two other documents there that I left on your desk. I also emailed them today. The graph that shows all the sediment is quite extensive. The indicator shows excessive turbidity, results getting progressively worse as the dates go along the flow chart. That sensor was destroyed and had to be fixed because the sediment actually reached the sensor. It had to be sent away to be fixed and come back, and hence the graph just shows that if you look below where the EPA indicator level turbidity should be below this, it just goes right off the charts there. So basically, the two motions, the two parts of the motion are that council officers commence an investigation into large amounts of sediment that are running into the Werribee River from the stormwater pipes at the rear of 270 Werribee Vale Road, Bacchus Marsh, and the investigation to include assessing the effectiveness of sediment barriers that run along the side of Werribee Vale Road opposite 270 Werribee Vale Road, Bacchus Marsh, that are in place to prevent sediment from flowing into the storm water pipes. And I'll just add also that the barriers that we viewed on the day that Councillor Dudzik and myself were there were partly falling down. Sediment was getting under them, hence that's the reason why the sediment's going down the stormwater pipes into the river.
And I'll second the motion.
Okay, councillors, we have, thank you, Councillor Berry. We have a notice of motion that's been moved by Councillor Berry and seconded by Councillor Dudzik. Any questions, councillors? Councillor Tatchell?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a question, would this be more appropriate to be put to the Water Minister in terms of the health of the Werribee River? I'm just ever concerned that we may enter into an expense that really belongs to the state government.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Just looking to my left to the CEO. One of the officers able to answer that on yourself?
No, I'm happy to take that. You're correct. One of the parties we will be contacting on this motion is the water authorities. So I think there's probably a bit of an investigation for who's liable, and so we will walk through that and then bring that back to council as well as part of this process.
Councillors, any other questions?
So basically, we will get a report back on that issue with respect to the role of Melbourne Water and Southern Rural Water as well.
Exactly. So
that will come back in due course.
In due course.
Part of this proposal.
Exactly, because we will do an assessment of it, but then also there's, as you can imagine, there's different bodies that are going to be responsible, and any report we bring back will highlight those issues and the relevant authorities we need to be in contact with.
Thank you, Mr CEO, and thank you, Councillors Tatchell and Sullivan. So we have a mover and a seconder for that motion, councillors. Any other questions? No? All in favour? Carried. Thank you. And I do commend the Bacchus Marsh Platypus Alliance and their founder and volunteer, Jodie Valpete, on the work they're doing along the Werribee River. Councillor, item 17 is the notice of rescission, which there is none. Item 18 is the Mayor's report, so that's included in your packs, councillors. It's been a busy couple of months over December and January, and there's also been a number of meetings with residents which have been quite enjoyable. So, councillors, I just recommend that, there's a recommendation to receive the Mayor's report. So moved, Councillor Sullivan, seconded Councillor Minari. All in favour? Carried. I'll go around the table, councillors, for councillors' reports, starting with my left. Councillor Sullivan.
No council reports, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Minari.
Nothing to report, Mr Mayor.
And it's good to see Councillor Tatchell back in the chambers. And welcome, Councillor Tatchell. Anything to report?
I only just got here.
Thank you, Councillor Tatchell. Councillor Berry.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I attended on the 19th of December the opening of the Mill Park Skate Park at Berlan, a fantastic facility for skaters in the Shire. It will be even more presentable once all the gardening's done around it, but I believe there were skaters partaking in through the fence, so it was only it was such a good idea to open it up and get it in use over the school holiday break. On the 26th of January, I attended the Australia Day Awards and Australian Citizenship Ceremony, respectively 9 o'clock, then 11:30. 86 people, I think, taking their oath. It was just amazing to see a mix in all nationalities there. It was a very well organised morning. On the 27th of January, I attended the Bacchus Marsh Aerodrome site visit with the Honorary Sam Ray MP, federal member for Hawke. First time I'd been out to the aerodrome and was quite surprised with all the facilities out there. The training facility we were able to walk through, and we saw some of the pilots in action doing some of their studies. Great facility, and looking forward to that filling up because it really does need to get those pilots in their training. So, yeah, I was very surprised by just the whole area of the Bacchus Marsh Aerodrome. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Berry. Councillor Dudzik.
I also attended the Australia Day Awards and Citizenship on the 26th of January, and it is fantastic to see so many people becoming residents. We may have to move to a bigger venue, I think, because it's becoming so popular. Because, yeah, it was incredible how many people are actually becoming citizens. On the 27th, I also attended the Bacchus Marsh site visit with the Honourable Sam Ray MP and also our Mayor, Rod Ward, as well as Councillor Berry. It's impressive how much it's actually changed over the years, because I went there probably about 6 years ago, and it's actually quite different. It has progressed, and the development that's gone on there is actually really quite impressive. It's quite different to 6 years ago. And I actually think all councillors should probably get a tour of it because it's changed so much, and it was actually far more impressive than I actually expected.
Thank you, Councillor Dudzik. Councillor Edwards.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to congratulate staff on their effort for their Australia Day celebrations once again. We probably do one of the best, I believe, of all the councils. We do a great job there. 80-odd people, as Councillor Dudzik pointed out. In addition, I'd like to thank the Mayor for he attended with the retirement village at Underbank after his long day up in Berlan for boat racing. I think there was 13 boats made during the year. One bloke made it 6 boats because he wasn't happy with his first 5. I'd like to say that we're lucky to get one over the line eventually. Anyway, thanks for turning up for that, Mr Mayor. It was very much appreciated by the Underbank community. That's all from me.
Thank you, Councillor Edwards. Councillor Edwards did steal my thunder. I wanted to also thank the council office for the fantastic presentation of the Australia Day citizenship ceremonies at the Boland Hall and also the Australia Day Awards. It was an honour and a privilege to present those awards and the citizenship ceremonies, and I commend the CEO and the officers involved in putting that day forward. The last thing I also want to mention, I mentioned there's been a huge focus by the council on the roads and a bit of a roads blitz after the severe storm events late in the year, and council committed additional funding, and we've thrown extra resources at that, hiring plan and equipment, and the efforts of the outdoor staff to address the severe damage to the roads over the holiday period has been over and above, and I do commend them on the extraordinary effort they've put forward. So if that could be passed on to the outdoor staff, Mr Jeffries, that'd be great, Mr CEO. Councillors, I will call for urgent business. Now, I have been advised of one item of urgent business by Councillor Sullivan, so I will ask for someone to move that we accept urgent business. Councillor Sullivan, seconded Councillor Minari. All in favour? Carried. Councillor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have circulated a note to councillors what I'm proposing. I did, with one small tweak, if council's indulgence, as the motion reads, it should be that council write to the City of Ballarat noting, one, as the responsible council for the management of Yankee Flat Road, Moorabool Shire should have been contacted to seek approval for the closure of the road. Two, Moorabool Shire is disappointed that council and local residents were not notified of this closure. And three, understanding that Federation University Road National Championship is an annual event, that a formal protocol be developed and signed off by both councils, and this formal ratified protocol be developed well before the 2024 event. So just with that slight addition, if councillors are okay, please.
Yep. Councillors, any questions for Councillor Sullivan? No.
Second it, Mr Mayor.
So move Councillor Sullivan, seconded Councillor Edwards. All in favour? Carried. Any urgent business? Councillor Minari?
No urgent business, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tatchell?
No.
Councillor Berry?
No urgent business, thank you, Mr Mayor.
And Councillor Dudzik?
No urgent business, thank you.
Councillor Edwards?
Yeah, just one, Mr Mayor, but I don't think it requires a motion. It's just in relation to council taking over some of the channels as PARs. So some of the residents between the section that runs from Shea Street to the main street there, I've been told by Southern Rural Water that it's now a council issue and the grass is 3/4 of the way up their fence. I'm not sure whose issue it is. I'm just making council aware that it's becoming an issue for the residents. Could we either, if it's our responsibility, could we look at rectifying it? If it's Southern Rural Waters, could we look at talking to them and see if they'll rectify the long grass?
Mr CEO?
Happy to follow that one up, Councillor Edwards.
Councillors, I also have one item, but I understand that I won't need a motion. It is merely a notation. Councillors, as the Mayor can appoint councillors to subcommittees, advisory groups and various bodies. Over the past 2 years, I've been the council representative on the Bacchus Marsh Aerodrome Management Committee. There has not been a proxy if I'm unable to attend. And after discussions with Councillor Tatchell yesterday, he has volunteered to be my proxy to be the council representative on the BMAM committee. So thank you, Councillor Tatchell. If that could be noted in the minutes too, that's appreciated.
Does that need ratification or not? It's because it's just usually something done at stat meetings or not?
Mr CEO?
For the proxy element of it, it'll just be noted and it'll be added to the list.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillors, that's the completion of urgent business. There is no closed session of the meeting to public. So that being the case, councillors, I close the meeting at 6:35 and we'll have our next meeting, councillors, on Wednesday the 15th of February. Thank you.